Hello, everybody. My name is Incon, and we're going to be making a ranked Deadlock tier list today, aimed more so at the high-end level of gameplay in Deadlock. So if some of your favorite heroes are a little bit lower, please don't blame me. I am basing this off of performances that I have seen in the higher-end gameplays and who is doing well. Most characters, I would say, are viable. So the good news is if you're really good with a certain hero, you can make them work in ranked. I don't think there's anybody that is like a 100% throw or anything, but there are definitely some characters that will help you carry more so than others. For those that don't know, we are uploading a lot of helpful Deadlock content here to the YouTube, so make sure you subscribe. And of course, we're streaming now 6 days a week over on twitch.tv/Incon. On Sunday, the stream starts later than Monday through Friday because we kind of wait for the rank service to come up, so we start that at 1 p.m. EST on Sunday. And the rest of the day is Monday through Friday. We're pushing for 8 hours starting at 9 a.m. Eastern. And now to start off with the tier list. Right off the bat, Abrams. Abrams is really, really oppressive at lower levels of gameplay, and he's not bad at higher levels of gameplay, but he does start to drop off as people get better at parrying, as people get better at kind of staying out of his dash range and whatnot. He has some really fun movement tech. You can see some really cool things with his ultimate, as well as like the dash punch and all that good stuff. Solidly okay character, though, at higher end ranked. He kind of lacks a little bit in the initiation department from what you would be looking for from some of the crucial guys that we're going to be talking about in a second. Bebop. Bebop is actually really good right now. The full damage sticky bomb kind of infinite stacking damage is going really hard right now, and it's not that difficult for Bebop to get his sticky bomb damage up to really good numbers. The big thing for me about Bebop is ranked in particular is all about getting picks, and Bebop is fantastic at getting picks because of his pull. I would put him in A tier right now in ranked. His laning phase can be hit or miss depending on how often you are hitting those pulls, especially like into tower and stuff. But his ability to pick somebody off right before a team fight so you guys have a 6v5 has been really, really strong in ranked games, and I do think that the sticky bomb damage has been a lot to deal with if he gets it stacked up, especially if you've got like a lower ranked guy in the lane against him and he's just feeding him stacks. Next up, we've got Dynamo. Now, Dynamo, and this might be a hot take for ranked, but I think Dynamo might be the single best ranked character in the game. As far as characters that have the ability to single-handedly win a game, Dynamo is near the very, very top of that list. When you have actual communication going on in ranked, and every Dynamo gets a refresher going pretty early, so they get the double black hole, not only is it a great ability to pick off if you even just get 1 or 2 people in it, it's the best team fight ability if you can get 4 or 5 people in it, which is possible. A little warp stone, a little dynamo ulti, smack them before they get their unstoppables off. And it's an incredible tool for stealing objectives like the mid boss, because you go in black hole and then somebody can just punch it underneath it. Dynamo in the right hands, incredibly scary right now. And ranked, very, 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 very strong. Gray Talon. Gray Talon got like crazy buffed and then a little nerf. Back down, but Great Talon is still one of the stronger characters in the game. His ability in laning phase to snowball is very strong. He transitions well into the mid-late game. I wouldn't say that he's a character that's going to single-handedly carry your team in a team fight, but he also has fantastic just general overall damage, and his laning phase is impressive. He would honestly fall somewhere between A to S tier for me. I'd put him at like A+, S-, but because I can't, I'm probably going to put him up here towards the bottom of S. Great Talon, very good right now. Haze. Haze is unfortunately for me, because I think Haze is really fun. Maybe fortunately for everybody else. Haze is definitely one of the lower tiered characters in the game. Her laning phase is very difficult. Pretty much loses or goes even in laning phase to like every other character. Her late game can be strong, but is the hero in the game that is most detrimentally hurt by item counters, metal skin, return fire, all that kind of stuff does really well against her. And as you get higher and higher in the ranks, people start to buy them earlier and earlier, which means you start to drop off really, really hard. I'd put her down in C tier right now. I don't think, like I said, I don't think she's not viable. Like, throwing her isn't a pick, but you're going to make your life more difficult for picking her. Next up, we got Infernus. Infernus is fantastic right now. I would say he's actually a good spot for balance of the game as well, where when you're playing Infernus, it feels like you are getting out good damage. It feels like you've got the time to sustain. It feels like you can get away because of your dash. I think Infernus is actually a really nice balancing point for the game. Obviously, if you get a fed on Infernus early and you can get a ricochet online and you start applying toxic bullets in the bleed in an entire team fight, he can get really oppressive when fed, but when you're fed, you should be oppressive. Like, you should be able to make awesome plays like that. And when he gets behind, because a lot of his damage is over time dependent, if you can get bursted down too early, he actually can fall out pretty fast if he gets behind. So I actually love where Infernus is. I put him in A tier. Ivy. Ivy's a bit hit or miss. For a while, there was a really big Ivy spirit build going around. Now a lot of people are playing a lot of attack speed Ivy with like Tesla bullets. So you're seeing a lot more of that happen. I have not been personally impressed with Ivy in a ranked setting. Even with the comms and stuff, he doesn't seem to be thriving in the games that we've been playing. Doesn't seem to be doing too bad. Doesn't seem to be thriving. He does have a couple interesting things that he can do, like the picking people up for the quick ganks and whatnot. His laning phase isn't terrible. He's kind of okay at everything right now. I'm going to put Ivy down in B tier. Kelvin. Kelvin was really, really oppressive until they nerfed some of his slows. He's also incredibly popular a lot of the times in competitive because of his CC and sustain output. Really popular to get rescue beam on him and play him as a support. The ranked supporty style isn't, I would say, as strong unless you're going with somebody like a Dynamo who's more of a clear, straight setup character. The setup characters are very, very strong at rank. The more supporty, save your team, get them out style gameplay is a little bit weaker because you have to have somebody fulfilling those carry roles in order for that support role to then be important. I would put him, though, in that A tier. A really good Kelvin can still be very problematic. Lady Geist. Lady Geist, about a month ago, was like a top 5 character in the game. She has also dropped off quite a bit right now. Still very oppressive in the 1v1 because if she ever gets low and hides behind a wall, you just can't fight her ever. You have to either throw abilities around there or hope that she shows herself again. A good Lady Geist in the laning phase, very problem. A good Lady Geist in the late game with a Mystic Reverb proccing can be a problem. Right there, solidly in A tier. She is able to be dealt with, but when she gets online and when she's super lifesteal and tanky, she can be quite oppressive. Lash. Now, Lash is another character that I would probably put somewhere in between S and A if I could. Lash has got incredible movement, if not the best movement, basically, in the game. He's incredibly fun, so there's basically always a Lash in a ranked game because he's so fun to play. So many people want to play him. He does have essentially one-shot capabilities once you get his 1 leveled all the way up for the increased damage as you slay him down. Heroic Leap did get slightly nerfed in the cooldown by like 6 seconds or something, which has affected Lash's ability to initiate a little bit. I still think he's one of the better initiation characters, and so I'm going to put him up in S tier. McGinnis. McGinnis, I hate to say it, is arguably the best character in the game still, strictly because of 2 things. Well, 2 things and an annoyance. 1, her wall is probably the best regular ability in the entire game. Massive wall to split up a team fight and make it a 3v3, and then it takes everybody behind the wall 3 seconds to get around it, and by that time the team fight could be over. And her ability to farm tier 3 camps as soon as they spawn because of her ultimate means she can get crazy fed, crazy fast, and then her turrets are the most annoying ability in the game. Even if they're not as good as her wall, if you accidentally turn a corner into like 4 McGinnis turrets and then she wall stuns you, you can be dead before you come out of the stupid 1-second stun. McGinnis might be the best rank character just from a pure every single game expecting to perform. Mo and Krill. Mo and Krill is seeing a lot of success. Ever since they made him tankier and his headshots, he doesn't take as much damage from headshots. Mo and Krill has been a problem in the ranked scene. His laning phase is one of the strongest in the game because he just W keys at you with no brain and then uses his heal, which does quite a good amount of damage, but also is a full heal for Mo and Krill. And then as you transition, you get yourself into that ability where you can just hold somebody down for your team. Great pickoff character. I don't know if his pickoff capabilities in the late game are as strong as like a Bebop and a Paradox because they can obviously do it from a longer range. But Mo and Krill rotating around the map because he gets a little ahead earlier. He's pushing the lane and rotating. Very strong ganks in the early game. Throw him down in A tier. Then we've got ourselves Paradox. Paradox and Bebop fulfilling a very similar role in ranked right now where they get that swap off for Paradox and then all of a sudden you're out of position. And Paradox is very difficult to kill because of his wall. His wall and McGinnis' wall might be the two best regular abilities in the game. It completely shuts down so many different characters, so many different abilities, and Paradox can have something absurd like 5 wall charges or something if he builds specifically for it. Not quite an S tier character, but I do think that a Paradox in the right hands is actually one of the stronger characters in ranked. Pocket. If this tier list would have been a month ago, Pocket would have been much higher on the list as well. Pocket right now has a couple of really bad matchups, though. For those that don't know, Pocket has built-in minus 15% spirit resist, which means that there's a couple of different characters that can pop him so hard in the early game. And Heroic Leap got nerfed, which he liked to use a lot. Some of his strategies got nerfed a little bit. He is still viable, but I would actually put him down towards this B tier in ranked right now. Not as strong as he would probably like to be. Next up, we got 7. I'm actually surprised with 7 in ranked. He's pretty well a competitive staple. A lot of competitive players put him in like the top 3 characters because of his area denial. Ranked doesn't, of course, work exactly like competitive does. And while he is still strong in it, the area denial is much stronger when you've got like full team comms, everybody working together. You've got your strategies and stuff. So it does drop off a little bit in the ranked scene, but I still think that he's quite strong just for his straight up AoE damage. And of course, he's got a strong jungle capability and strong laning phase. Vindicta. Vindicta is an interesting one because from a stat standpoint, I bet Vindicta is really high on the total souls and total damage charts right now for ranked. They buffed her quite a bit. Her damage is strong. Her laning phase is really strong, assuming she doesn't get one of her like hard counter matchups. But even then, her laning phase is pretty well going to go even. She doesn't have a lot of lanes that you would expect her to get pounded in. And if she can get a couple of those snipes off early as she gets those bonus souls, she can start to snowball very, very hard. The one thing about Vindicta that I will say is while her damage is strong, her souls are strong, I do see a small correlation between really fed Vindictas, but not necessarily always winning the game. So I'm actually going to put her down in A tier. I do think that she is strong, but she lacks just a little bit of that oomph in the ultra late, right around that 35-minute marker where you're going for those big team fights and people start to get their counter items online. Warden has been popping up a little bit more in the ranked games. I wouldn't say that he is particularly popular right now, but Warden's ultimate can be a game changer. His laning phase isn't bad. I'm surprised personally to have not seen more of Warden. Until I see more Wardens kind of proving themselves, I'm going to have to put him down kind of at the upper echelon of B tier. But I do think that in the right hands, he has got some gnarly teamfight capabilities. Even gun build Warden can be very cool. But he is not picked a lot in ranked, and if a character isn't being picked a lot, you have to assume that that's because people aren't thinking they're quite as good. Wraith. Wraith gets picked all the freaking time. She is 100% up in A tier. She gets picked absolutely all the time. A lot of the time she gets picked for her ultimate. Her ultimate, especially once you get the final points in it, in order to make it AoE, can be detrimental in a closed door team fight. She has several different styles that are viable for her as well. She's got like the full tilt throwing card builds. She's got more of a ganking shadow weave style of build. So she does have several different variants. So you got to make sure you're checking Wraith's builds throughout the game. And she's got a decent laning phase once she has her cards up and running. We've got, oh, you're right. We are missing a Mirage on this list. So we'll talk about Mirage at the very end. We've got Yamato. Yamato is not as strong in ranked as she is in casuals. Yamato's laning phase is very strong. Yamato 1 does what? A baseline 160 damage or something on Power Slash, which is a lot, if not the most damaging ability, I think, at level 1. Very easy to hit as well. So if you're letting Yamato hit you with that, that's a problem. Plus, she has the right click to kind of try to hit you while you're under tower as well, to throw those little rocket bunches at you. But from a rank perspective, she tends to get shut down pretty easily. The kind of double ulti abuse isn't as strong as it used to because it used to be so much longer that you could get into it. Plus, it would give you all the resistances and stuff. Not as strong as it used to be, but it is still fun to play with a good Yamato in the early game because it can make your laning phase super nice. Shiv! Another character that if this would have been a tier list a while ago, I would have had up in S tier. But I'm actually going to put Shiv down here in A tier. Still a strong character. Still has great damage with a bleed build. You can still go a punch build with him. You can go more of a tanky ulti execute build. Whatever you're vibing on him, he's got multiple viable builds as well. But they took some of the edge off of Shiv to where he used to be a month ago. He was literally 100% in every single rank game. Now you get some games that don't have him in it. And if he is in them, it's not like a guaranteed, oh, that team wins like it used to be. And then Viscus, the little goo boy, I'd put him probably up here towards the bottom of A tier. Viscus seems to be very, very difficult to play. So even at high levels of gameplay, I think some of the Viscuses aren't super impressive. But every once in a while, you get a Viscus that can both do damage and has the support style down for like saving the teammates with the cubes. He comes with an interesting gameplay loop. The ball build isn't really as strong, I don't think, as the gun build right now for getting out the damage. But a good Viscus player is definitely viable and has a very strong laning phase as well. And then finally, Mirage. Mirage is actually the 5th character. We don't have him on this list right here. I'm not sure why he's not on, but that's okay. Mirage would also go up in S tier towards the top. Mirage might be the best 1v1 character in Deadlock right now. Incredibly strong laning phase. The ulti allows you to rotate without losing too much farm at all if you use her right. Super tanky with the combination of his 2 and the fact that his ultimate gives him some things like unstoppable when you have it leveled up, and his 1 gives him bullet evasion. He can be incredibly difficult to 1v1. In a team fight, he has massive disruption with that tornado capability, not to mention his 2. And the Dijin's mark, even if you're going a single target build, if you're not like doing a ricochet, it can still be so impressive in those team fights because people get those ticks on them and then they're like, what do I do? Do I hide behind a wall? And then you still blow them up for like 1,000 damage. Mirage, very, very strong rank character and is also in like every single rank game. So that would put our tier list with McGinnis, Dynamo, Grey Talon, Lash, and Mirage in S tier. Vindicta, Shiv, 7, Paradox, Infernus, Wraith, Lady Geist, Bebop, Kelvin, Mo, and Krill, and Viscus in A tier. And those, I would say, S and A tier, these are the characters I would say you want to be picking in ranked as much as you can. And then we head down into B tier, Warden, Ivy, Abrams, Pocket, Yamato. Still viable, I would say, especially if you're like a super one-trick main and you've got these characters down to a science. Definitely still viable. And then down with Haze. Haze, if things go right for you, if your team plays around you a little bit, if they help you out in the laning phase, if you get some ganks off, you can still come online. But I do think that there's just too many items that strictly counter her playstyle right now, and she takes too long to come online. And as I've gotten higher and higher in the ranks, games can be ending earlier and earlier. It is not uncommon for a game to end in like 20 to 25 minutes, and that's just not enough time for Haze to reach her full potential. So that, guys, is going to be our first, hopefully, of many Deadlock tier lists coming your way as we continue through with the helpful Deadlock content. If you liked this video as well as others, please make sure to subscribe. And if you didn't see our top 10 tips video, make sure you go watch that as well to support the content.